All right, here we go. I'm excited for another episode of Head in the Clouds. You are joined by myself, Chris Johnson. Let's put some names up here. There we go. Chris Johnson, Alonzo Coleman, and Mike Gibbs. Mike is our founder and CEO here at Go Cloud Careers. Alonzo is our Chief Marketing Officer, and I am our Chief Operating Officer. So, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about how to get hired and how to interview in uncertain job markets. So, in case you're wondering why there's this random banner up here about getting your additional AWS resources, we just recently, a little over 3 hours ago, finished the first day of our AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. So if you did not attend, you can watch the replay. But let me put a link out here for you. You can watch the replay. Actually, you know what? I'll let Tyrone put that link out there, and enjoy it and watch that replay. Get that replay in, and then join us for day 2 tomorrow. So we will kick off at 12 p.m. noon tomorrow, and we look forward to you joining us. So that's why that random banner is up there. But what are we going to be talking about tonight? We're going to be talking about how to interview in an uncertain job market. We're going to be talking about best interview practices. We're going to be talking about how to prepare for that tech interview, what type of training you need for that tech interview. We're going to be talking about anything and everything about the tech interview and interview training. So, Mike, I'll let you say a few words. I got to find a couple of resources here so that we can get rolling. So I'll hand it over to Mike and Alonzo for a few seconds. And then I got a few more things to tell everybody about before we get too far down the rabbit hole.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about interviewing in a down economy. For all practical terms, we're in a tech recession and you can still get hired. I've got students that are still getting hired all the time. And I'm going to tell you right now, personally, every time I got a new job, it was during a hiring freeze and during a recession. It seemed to me that was the perfect time to go from a job that I didn't love to a job that I did love. So keep that in the back of your mind. Now, when it comes down to it, it's about showing the hiring manager that they need you, showing them that no matter what the times are, you're going to be there for them, and showing them why you are a solution to the organization's financial problems. Now, this is something I've been working on for 25 years, more than that, actually, and I've literally read thousands of books on psychology, sociology, body language reading, emotional intelligence, and sales to train my clients how to win the interview. I've never been on an interview where I didn't get hired. It's pretty much standard. I go on an interview. Some jobs have 16 interviews, some jobs have 2. And in most of the companies, I actually got hired on the spot of my first interview because I made it clear to them that they couldn't live without me. And we're going to teach you some of those skills here, but I'm going to make it very clear to you. Interview training and your interview is equally as important as anything else you study. People get a certification and they're like, woohoo, my certification can get me an extra $10,000 a year. I'm here to tell you that right interview training can literally get you another $50,000 to $200,000 a year based upon the job. And throughout today, I will show you jobs that have a $200,000 plus pay range between the top and the bottom of the person. And what's that based on? How much the company wants you. How does the company determine if they want you or not? It's all about the interview. So we'll discuss the technical interview, winning the technical interview, the cloud architect interview, and all of those critical things to make sure you get hired on your next interview. I love to win the interview. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Tonight's going to be all about interviews. Chris is going to have a bunch of things to talk about, but interviews, my world. I've been coaching people to get hired now for over 2 decades. I've coached nurses, nurse practitioners on interviews. I've coached network engineers. I've coached cloud architects, network architects, you name it. I even got some people hired in banking positions because I know the psychology of the interview, and we're going to have a lot of fun with that. How about you, Alonzo? You want to start it off? I know Chris is going to make some announcements and things like that, and then we'll get back to the content.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Thanks so much. I'm just always glad to be here with you, gentlemen. But yeah, it's very important that you engage in the battle. We had plenty of content where we talk about specifically engaging for that war or that particular battle. And that is the battlefield is actually the hiring manager's initial phone call and you walking into the office. Make sure that you are prepared for this interview. Make sure you're doing your due diligence about understanding who the company is that you want to work for, what they do, what their markets are like, what their competitors are doing, how you're able to integrate your skill set and provide these solutions. But we'll talk a whole lot about that during this conversation.
All right, had to find my unmute button there. All right, so in case it's not clear, we're going to be talking about tech interview preparation. We're going to be talking about tech interview training. We're not going to give all of it away. We're going to give you a little bit of those tech interview training tips and those tech interview preparation tips. Might talk about some of these cloud architect and solution architect interview questions. And also, I want to let everybody know we do have a tech interview mastery program that we're currently doing our first batch, and we've actually opened enrollments for our batch that will start in May. There are only 25 slots available, and I know that some have been taken. I don't know the exact number, but we do have this tech interview course. So we'll share some information about that throughout the show as well. But that just, since I said it, the Tech Interview Mastery Program includes 5 small curated classes just for those 25 people that attend. It includes monthly interview practice sessions, and it includes three. Apparently, my fingers don't know how to work. It includes 3 private one-on-one consultations with our team of experts that can help you reach your dream of winning the interview. So I believe I've got a link for that here. I do. Let's put that in the chat box for everybody. That's the first thing that I want to tell everyone about. The next thing, Tyrone beat me to it. Thank you, Tyrone. Tyrone, wonderful member of our team, has put that in the link there. And we do have a 40% discount available right now. That won't be available for very long. Take advantage of that while there's still opportunity, while the slots are still available. And that will begin in May. So this could easily lead to tens of thousands of dollars in increases in your salary just based upon the way that you perform in the interview. Next, we also have a free interview guide that we want to make available to you to help you know what you need to do to win the interview. So again, it's not going to do everything that the Tech Interview Mastery Program could do for you, but it is great information and it's a great place to start. So make sure you get that free interview guide. Tyrone, I'm sure we'll be putting that link there in the chat box as well. And then lastly, I don't have a pretty banner for this, but we also have a webinar that we're going to be doing not on YouTube. We're going to be doing a webinar where you can come and interact and ask us questions and come on camera and talk to us one-on-one. We're going to be doing a webinar next Friday about how to win the interview. Again, we're really big about winning the interview, in case you can't tell. So we got the interview guide right up here. That's free. We've got the webinar next Friday. That's free. We've got our Tech Interview Mastery Program that's currently 40% off. Less than 20 slots left available. I did just check. So those slots are going. So take advantage of all of those resources while they're available for you so that you can win the interview and reach your dream career. So let's start talking. If you could have seen the 3 of us behind the scenes right before this show kicked off, we were trying to figure out where to start because this is such a big topic. In case it wasn't clear how big of a topic this is, when I was talking about the Tech Interview Mastery Program, about the number of classes that we offer, the number of sessions that we offer there, and then the content that's available on demand in that program. It's just such There's such a breadth of topics to cover in this. So I know that Mike has some things that he wants to talk about the interview process. And then I know there's some things that Alonzo and I want to talk about. I'm looking at our list here. Trust me, trying to get the three of us organized. There is a reason why I have work to do. Let me see here. So, okay, I think, Mike, it would be appropriate to discuss your part after we discuss the parts that Alonzo and I have, because yours, it seems like what you want to talk about kind of answers the question of the problem that is presented with the stuff that Alonzo and I have. What are your thoughts?
I was thinking the exact opposite, but
all right, let's go with that.
I think I was going to let me describe, the things that the hiring managers need to hear. And why don't you guys talk a little bit about how to do it? And then we'll make that kind of a lively discussion.
All right, we'll see if we can figure it out.
So, I want to make it clear. The interview is what separates you from the job you want. But the interview also determines your salary. I'm going to tell you, I've coached people for 2 decades, and they view the interview as an afterthought. Literally speaking, as an afterthought. This is insanity to me, and I'll give you some examples why. I'm going to show you some decent paying positions in the cloud space, the kind of jobs that our students get, and the kind that you can easily get within a couple of years of experience. And I want to show you why the interview matters so much. Here we've got a principal solution architect at AWS. I was a principal solution architect in less than 2 years. No big deal. And it's really related to the amount of business acumen you have in your leadership skills, not your hands-on tech skills, because we as architects, we don't touch the tech. But here's what I want you to see. The pay range is from $291 to $491. Now, granted, some of that's related to commissions, but that's a $200,000 pay differential. It's like a higher paying job, a job that requires a little more business acumen. I coach lots of people for this. A senior director at Cisco. $528,000 is effectively the salary. But look at the pay range here. $417 to $689. That's over $250,000. There's a reason I'm going over these pay range, because I want you all to make a lot more money than you've ever dreamed possible. Now we've got a senior director at Palo Alto. Now look at the pay range here. $425 to $790 with an average pay of $540. What are you noticing here? That's over $350,000. How about Accenture? For a director, $384 is average, but look at the difference between the top and the bottom, $294 and $514. Again, over $200,000. Now on entry-level jobs, it's less, it's more, for example, of what you're typically dealing with is it's a $50,000 to $100,000 pay difference. And I want you to claim it all. Here we go, IBM. Director or senior director in IBM, average salary $399. And the pay range is, what we're dealing with is $314 to $521. So what determines that? If you'd ask somebody that doesn't know better, that's never hired anybody like a certification provider, they'd say it's your experience. I'm going to tell you right now, it has nothing to do with your experience. It's exactly how much the hiring manager wants you. The more they desire you, the more they're willing to pay you. I went on my first job and they had network engineers 0 through 4. I was hired as a network engineer 4. I had 0 experience. I was earning double the rest of the people on the team. Why? I really knocked that interview out of the park. Now, admittedly, I probably spent 150 hours preparing for that interview. But I read thousands of pages. I learned it. I used an old VCR with a video camera. I recorded myself answering questions because I wanted to win that thing. So I'm trying to show you $100,000, $200,000 or more is what you can eke out with the interview. It's kind of like dating. You're worth more if you got the right clothes on and you say the right words. 2 people approach somebody at a bar. One person basically says the wrong things and they get escorted out of there. The next person says the right things and they've got a new relationship. So the phases of the interview are going to be as follows. First thing you have to do is establish rapport. Got to build a relationship with the employee. Then, and this is especially critical in a down economy, You got to show that employer they need you. And there's a certain set of skills called career agility skills, which, my team is going to discuss, because those are the key to earning more money. And there's that. So there's these special career agility skills. They'll earn you an extra $100,000, but also they make an employer know that if they hire you for one job and they have to eliminate the position, you don't need to get laid off. They can move you to something else. So they're more likely to hire you with these career agility skills, and you're going to get paid more. So make sure you learn this, because that's exactly what we're talking about. And I see some people asking questions ahead of time. They're the wrong questions. And I'm going to teach you the right questions because I want to maximize your salary too. My team will make sure we cover that. So what is it a hiring manager really wants? What do you have to prove to them? And don't ever discuss your salary prior wowing them, ever. And there's ways to dodge that, and we teach that to our students all the time. Only time I ever discuss salary is after they said, Mike, I'm going to hire you. That's the time to show your worth. And there's ways to do that. So what do hiring managers want? Well, first, they want somebody that can do the job. You'd think that's easy, right? Of the 5,000 people I interviewed before I started this training program, what if I told you less than 10 of them were even able to do the job? Of the 5,000. What if I tell you that one of them that I hired, his name was Shanur, he didn't know anything about the topic, but he had a good attitude, energy, enthusiasm, and I was determined to hire him anyway. And I hired 2 or 3 other people that had no background whatsoever. So now, literally speaking, out of 5,000 people, less than 7 of them were actually capable. 7 at the time of interviewing. Now, why is that? I'm going to tell you right now. What's an Olympian do? Let's say Michael Phelps that swims. Usain Bolt, he's the coolest dude in the world. This guy runs faster. He runs at like 30 miles an hour. It's so cool. I also love watching Simone Biles. You ever see her fly on her gymnastics bars? What does Simone Biles do every day? Gymnastics. Strength and conditioning for gymnastics. Mobility for gymnastics. She lives it, eats it, breathes it, sleeps it. What did Michael Phelps do? He swam 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 miles a day. He practiced drills and he did strength and conditioning for swimming. He's not a marathon runner. He didn't go play basketball on the weekend. He didn't play football. He swam. What's Usain Bolt do? To be able to run at 30 miles an hour, he spends a lot of time in that weight room and he spends a lot of time sprinting. And guess what he doesn't do? Ride his bike and run long distance, because that would eat at it. Why am I saying this? If I told you in 5,000 interviews, everybody I met, except for 6 of the 7, knew everybody else's job but the one they needed to be there for. It's like when somebody wants to be an architect and they study DevOps and SysOps and coding and Linux, and they don't know system design and they don't know business. I have security escort them out the room. And that's what typically occurs. And we say very politely, I'm sorry you lack experience. Come back when you have experience. That basically means you're incompetent. Get out of here. But we can't say that. So kind of keep that. So the first thing somebody needs is somebody that can do the job. You can interview 1,000 people and you won't find one that can do it. It's that bad, because people are so focused on certifications and spreading their energy that they don't learn what is the technology. How does the technology work? And most importantly, what does the tech do for the business? Because no business buys tech because they like it. What is the next thing employers want? Someone they can trust, right? What do 99% of people do on an interview? They lie. All right. Goodbye. Out of the building. So at some point today, we're going to talk about how to answer questions you don't know. Either my team will do it or I will do it. Now, next thing that somebody wants, they want somebody that can communicate. Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's a lot easier to have an Alonzo on your team that gets along with everybody than somebody that doesn't get along with others. And the better you communicate, the better you get along with others. The better you communicate, the less mistakes you make. Mistakes mostly occur from bad communication. I used to work with a lot of programmers. They'd say garbage in, garbage out. Bad communication means garbage information. So the next thing the employers want is somebody that knows what they know and knows what they don't know, so they don't do stupid stuff like make errors. Have you seen the errors that have occurred? Facebook was down for like a whole day because somebody misconfigured BGP. The Google Cloud was taken down by somebody that misconfigured BGP. 16% of hacks on the cloud are people that don't even know how to configure their object storage. So they want to know that you know what you know and know what you don't know, so you don't make mistakes. Now, what they're next looking for, and it came out of Jack Welch, energy, enthusiasm. Seriously, do you want this person that's taking pictures what are they called? Selfies, belfies? I don't know, where people take pictures of their face, their butt, all that other stuff. I don't want them on my team. I don't want somebody going to TikTok and talking about videos that shows that they're lazy. I want someone that wants to work. As does every hiring manager. And I also know that, guess what? One person can't do anything on their own. As the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Believe me, if it was just me doing stuff without Chris, you don't want to know how disorganized that would possibly look. So it takes a village of different people with different strengths. Architecture, which is my world, is a team sport. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It takes different people with, and if you're not a team player. And they also want people to go above and beyond. So look at all these quiet quitters on TikTok. I promise you, they're half of your laid off people that are out there were quiet quitting and saying bad things about their company. At least 50% of the people that are laid off. So don't be that person. Be positive, 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 positive. So why do you need to train for that interview? Well, as I mentioned, look at the salary difference of those who prepare for the interview who don't. In these jobs, one of them had a $300,000 pay differential. So you must train for the interview. Now, what should you need to train for? Well, first, how to control the interview. How do you take the interview on your terms? How do you redirect the interviewer that's asking you about things that you don't know and putting it in the frame so you can highlight your strengths and mitigate your weaknesses? You have to do that. So you got to be able to learn how to control the interview. You got to learn how to read the interviewer's body language. Of course, we teach this to our students. Why? Because when the interviewer talks, if you can't read them, you don't know whether to keep talking or whether to be quiet. And you got to read them the same way. If you're trying to sell a product, like a $40 million solution, you got to know what to say and when to say it. You got to read your room. Guess what? If you don't know how to read the room, you're leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table when it comes to actually getting hired. An expert interviewer knows how to build the right resume. Why? Because you got to put the right bait out there to catch the right fish. So there's that. And it's really just a sales call. So how do you close a sale? I'm going to tell you this right now. Watch. I got this new service. It's called AWS S3. It's really exciting. People would laugh me out of the room. I'd be fired. I'd be escorted up by security, and my replacement would thank me for the nice job. Now, if I'd said to that chief information officer, we've got the same object storage in the AWS cloud that we have in your data center, but it might be 20% cheaper. Additionally, it's so agile that when you run out of capacity in your data center and you have to buy something new, which takes a while on the cloud, there's nothing. By investing in this, we can deliver this amount of business value to your business, a cost savings of this, an increased velocity to deploy new business services better, faster, and cheaper, which can enhance your revenue. And we can decrease your operating expenses by enhancing your employee productivity. Now they're interested. So you've got to show that hiring manager that you're a solution to the hiring manager's problems. Believe me, every hiring manager has problems. Otherwise, they wouldn't hire you. If they didn't have any work, they'd not be looking. Companies don't look to hire people. And when it comes to firing people, seniority is nonsense. I've been here for 30 years, so I'm good. Well, which would you do if you were the CEO? Keep the person that's been there doing nothing for 30 years? Or keep the person you hired 6 weeks ago that's really driving business and really helping the company? So it's that. So a lot of this is thinking about the way the hiring manager thinks. So I talked a lot about it a little bit to kind of introduce the topic. And I want Chris and Alonzo to really talk a lot more about it. And then we'll have more of a team dialogue and we'll answer so many of your questions. But the interview is really critical for your success.
Yeah. So the first thing that I want to do is there was a question about what do I do about, where was this? There, you guys know what question I'm talking about. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? Okay. What happens when the salary is negotiated pre-interview? The salary should not be negotiated pre-interview because the salary should be dependent upon you. And before the interview, they don't know anything about you. Now, if what you're asking is what happens when the salary is set and non-negotiable and it's publicly posted that way,
walk.
Well, it
let me
depends.
touch
I
on
mean,
that.
it depends. You don't just walk. It depends. But
Yeah.
if it's publicly posted that it's a non-negotiable salary, here it is. Because especially in government, you see this a lot. It depends on what level. What I forget what they're called, but
Grades.
yeah, it depends on what grade you are. It really just matters. It just depends. But in that case, there's no negotiation. It's just you present yourself the best you can and make sure you get the role.
Well,
But I want to hear Mike's input on that.
it's a little more than that. So, Bobby, on my first interview, I interviewed to be a network engineer, and I asked for a certain salary. I had zero experience whatsoever. And I was asked a question, and it was on this routing protocol, EIGRP. It was this Cisco proprietary routing protocol, and I don't believe in proprietary anything, those that know me. So Devendra asked me about EIGRP, and I said, Devendra, I'm sorry, I've not had the opportunity to learn the technology yet, but I'm highly energetic, I'm highly enthusiastic, and I love technology. I said, if it's important to you to learn EIGRP, I'll stay up all night, read 1,000 pages a day, and be the best EIGRP person on your team. But I want to be honest with you so we can build a good, solid, and strong relationship. I said, if you really want to gauge my competence, you can ask me about OSPF, BGP, PIM sparse mode, and I can really show you what I know. Now, when I said that on my first interview with zero tech experience, I had just left internal medicine, Devendra sticks out his hand. And he says, Mike, I'm going to hire you. And I went, okay. And there's a reason, Bobby, I'm giving this example. He says, but you applied to be a network engineer and you interviewed to be a network engineer. You're not a network engineer. You're a senior network engineer. And as such, we have to pay you more and give you a better job. I also, about right before I started this company, actually around the same week, I also had an interview with a big conferencing communication system. You all know the name, but I'm going to be polite about it. And when I interviewed for a job, it was as a basic healthcare architect. When I interviewed with the person, she said, Mike, you're not a healthcare architect. She said, this is beneath you, and I can easily make you a distinguished architect in our company. So the point is, if you really wow them on the interview, they may give you a better job than the one you applied for with a much higher salary. And it's happened to me twice. So again, it still matters. But most cases, someone says, what do you want before you interview? Don't answer that. The response is, quite frankly, I have to understand the role and the role's needs, wants, and desires and demands before I can accurately give you that. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. You don't want to sell anything or provide the cost until you can show your value. But if it's pre-negotiated, I might still go on the interview and I might show them that you're too good for the job and let them move you to a better job. Because in many cases, the hiring manager has those options. So that's why I gave you two examples. Might have been a little wordy, but I could pretty much do that on anything. Go in for an interview and get a better job than I wanted. And an expert interviewer can do that because they wow the hiring manager so much.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering where you were going with
Let's
that.
take this in consideration also, guys, is that if they're negotiating I already had it laid out. This is what we're going to pay. This gives me and this is personal experience, is because they have a load of work that they're not exactly being candid about. They're not showcasing maybe the possible toxic culture or anything else that you won't know until you're actually in the door. So I personally, from my experience, I've been very leery about them saying, okay, this is all we're willing to pay. So if this is all we're willing to pay and you have yet to lay out all the responsibilities, all the relationship building, all of anything else, and you already met me at the door saying X, Y, and Z, that kind of gives me pause about what this role really is and how I'm going to be able to successfully navigate about that. I think these are some things that we need to take into consideration.
I'll offer the flip side of that. Again, from personal experience, I've been met at the door because they're concerned that they can't afford me, and they want to let me know that this is all they can pay. Also, so
I've had that too.
There's a lot of there's a lot of reasons that they may do that, but there's a difference between saying that this is all we can pay and this is what it is.
Yeah.
Because it boils down to semantics, and semantics is also a part of psychology. It's all tied together. If they say this is all we can pay, that's not the same as saying this is what it is.
Yes.
Because again, you just simply using the government job as an example. This is what it is. It's not this is all we can pay. This is what it is. There's no questions. But yeah, Mike, I was wondering where you were going with your thing, but then I realized you were bringing it full circle to what I was saying. If there's a position that this is what it is, and it's clear that this is what they're paying, this is it, there's no negotiation, still go in the interview, still blow their socks off if you want to work for them, because they'll find a way.
Yes.
I think we mentioned this yesterday on our Q&A session that all of us have had a different title than what we actually did because we needed they needed to pay us what they wanted to pay us. So it falls right in line with that. Yeah. So go on the interview. If it's do your reconnaissance. Now have what Alonzo was saying in the back of your head as some temperance of, okay, maybe there's something. Let me make sure I check out this company. Make sure this little red flag that's coming up. See if there's anything behind it, or if it's just that's how the company operates and that's how they've got because maybe it's a really well regarded company, but they're very clear about their salaries being black and white.
And Chris, you really brought up a good point. You may have a job with a wacky salary. I'll give you 2 examples. I was a lead enterprise architect at Cisco, and I had a job title that was senior manager / vertical IBSG manager. What the heck does that mean? Nobody knows. But it was a job in a category where they could pay me what they needed to pay me. I only stayed there for a couple of days because I did not enjoy working there at all. And I had 2 job offers at the time. We're going back 20 years ago. It's a wonderful company, but I just didn't I didn't like what I was experiencing. I joined one company and they made me a consulting systems architect. And they didn't want an architect. They really wanted an engineer. And when they hired me, they said, look, we want a CCIE engineer, but we can't pay you as a CCIE engineer what we need to, so we're going to call you a consulting systems architect. Are you okay with that? I'm like, I don't care what you call me. You can call me Joey. As long as the check cashes, as long as I'm doing an honest and ethical job. I don't care what you call me. You can call me Billy Bob. I don't care. So there was that, because I've never been much for titles. I'm whatever I need to be, kind of guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So we kind of went down the rabbit hole there about negotiating before you interview. So circling back to what Mike was talking about. Mike was talking about what is it that hiring managers want, and what the purpose of the interview is. It's to show your value, and it's to show you. It's a sales call. The interview is a sales call. The resume is what are the cards at the hotels? We have our rack cards that we take out to all the companies in the area that show what we have to offer, and what all of our information, square footage of the meeting space, and the number of rooms in the hotel. We got all that. That's what the resume is for you. It's your rack card. It's your bid sheet. It's your request for information form that you're trying to get. You've completed the request for information to try and get the bid. That's what the resume is.
And Chris put it best. It's an advertisement about you that says, interview me.
Yep.
And how good is that advertisement is going to determine the quality of the interviews.
Yep. So that's what Mike was talking about. So let's talk about there's something that I know we were talking about this beforehand, and I want to I can't remember who put it out there, but somebody said that that what we want to do on an interview is that you want to show that you're what they want. And I have a different perspective on that one. I strongly believe that the interview is your opportunity to show them that you're what they need.
Yeah.
So following up on this sales call that you're doing. You're doing your interview sales call. You have a captive audience. They may be the ones asking you the questions, but you are in complete control in the way in which you answer those questions.
Yeah.
So there's an aspect that we talk about in all of our training about controlling the interview. And again, you may not be asking the questions, but you have full control over the response. And every single one of your responses should include something that is tailored to showing them why they need you, or what they have to have you. No matter what the question is, there's some, obviously, you may not be able to provide a direct, clear, hey, you need me because blah, 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 blah. But you should give thought to that. And obviously, this is not something that's easy to do in real time. So it's something that you have to be preparing in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of content out there about interview preparation, interview questions that are out there. So there's no reason that people can't be preparing for interview questions.
No.
With everything that we've got out there. So take the opportunity when you're preparing responses for interview questions, make sure you're including, okay, how do I frame this in a way that they need me?
Mm.
Yes, and I wanted to go back to Chris in a second. He talked about what we have out there. We have interview questions out there, and a lot of them. And many people have used them to help get hired. But there's a big difference between interview questions and interview training. Interview questions are, you practice for these 40 questions, which are possibly going to come up. Interview expertise is knowing how to take any question and point it down the direction that you actually have, to be able to raise your value, to show your worth. And Chris is right. It's about showing them what you need. I had this ridiculous manager about 20 some years ago. It was where I was working at a market maker on the NASDAQ. This guy was a techie IIT graduate, and he was obsessed with tech. He should have been instead obsessed with the business. And he interviewed me, and he's like, Mike, can you write a bash shell script? What do you know Linux? And I'm a CCIE networking architect. Yeah. And he's asking me these silly, ridiculous questions. And I said to him, I'm not going to mention his name. He was fired very soon after because he was a horrible chief information officer. And he said to me, Mike, how do you write a bash shell script? And I said, honestly, that's not my strength. My strength is designing systems that are mission critical, where a minute of downtime costs $1 million. Oh, by the way, how much does downtime cost you? And he says $2.6 million a minute. I said, how many minutes of downtime have you had? He said, typically about 20 minutes every other day. I said, so what we're saying is you've got $50 million of downtime every 2 days. I said, my world is making sure your systems don't go down more than 5 minutes per year. I said, so I could learn to code, which is a cheap skill that you can pay anybody to do, or I could work hard to make sure you don't have those multi-million-dollar outages every single day.
That's an opportunity
cost. You save, you can hire a team of 30 or 40 or 50 programmers. And he shut up at that point. They hired me on the spot. 3 months later, he tried to send me to coding courses. He sent me to Sun Microsystems. The organization had a massive outage while I was gone. He was removed as the chief information officer, and they put somebody else that was really solid in that business because he was an engineer and he did not know CIO, which is an architect position. But that's neither here nor there. But that's the key. When I said what they want, Chris is saying what they need. This guy wanted a techie because 20 years ago, people didn't know what an architect was except for Cisco and IBM and Microsoft. They knew. And I showed him that I was a real architect and I wasn't going to go down that engineering path, which is another critically important, highly skilled job for a different person, because you can't fly an airplane and hand out the drinks at the same time. You just can only focus on one thing at a time. So that I was going back to Chris, because Chris really pointed it out well. It's what you need. Let's go back to you, Chris, because you were really on.
I'd love to hear what Alonzo has to think about that.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree because you are giving them something to think about. And when they present what their expectations are for someone to fulfill that role, and yet you convert it, you lead it, you master that ability to guide that interview, and you show them what they need instead of what they want, it opens up a whole new visual for you from a branding perspective about your strategy. You're being able to provide innovation in ways that they haven't thought about, and be able to create those opportunities for them outside of, like you said, how that role is supposed to manifest for the applicant. So I wholeheartedly agree with that, because you think about, say, for instance, like Mike elaborated with that particular example, and they're like, wow, I never thought about it that way, because perhaps they didn't have the right people in place. And by doing that, it creates more value, and it continues to exponentially increase, and they're going to be ready to hire you and not leave have you leave out the door with a good offer.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I reference the controlling the interview, and that is something that we're really heavy on in our training program. So that is a big key, and we're giving a little bit away here for you guys. So
Yeah,
make sure to
you
take
give it, yeah.
advantage of it. So I see we got Anthony and Angelo both in the chat box over there.
Wonderful.
Excited to see you guys.
Yeah, it's
Always.
good to see you, Gonzo.
All right. So before we move to another talking point, I want to take a question. And I saw this person ask this a couple of times during our boot camp today, and because it wasn't relevant,
In the boot camp.
per se, directly relevant in the boot camp. Let me find it. Where did it go? My eyes are running together after all these things today. Sorry, guys. Where did it go? Okay. So, is this course due to the demand for more cloud professionals in the market? So they asked that both in the boot camp and here. So I'm guessing they're asking about why we're doing our free boot camp.
Okay, so let's give you an example. We're doing the free boot camp for the following reason. I never intended to create any of these programs. I was retired. I had an incredible technology career. What happened was I was asked to train my friend's son. The kid was finishing a computer engineering degree, and he wanted to be in something great. And I said, cloud computing. And when I was younger, you'd pay $10,000 for a certification course, and you actually had people that actually knew something that were teaching it when I was younger. In fact, my first certification cost me $40,000. And this is going back to like 1998 or 96. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. And what I did is I said to my friend's father, I said, I will personally mentor him, just like all the people I've mentored over the years. I'm going to make sure your son gets a great job. I said, I'd like to buy him the 3 most common courses that are out there on AWS Solution Architect certification, and I will do the extra training and polish him up and teach him the business acumen, the leadership skills, the sales skills, the executive presence, communication, all the things that are necessary to really build the career. His father was incredibly grateful. His father was a friend of mine. Well, what ultimately happened was after 3 days of watching all these 3 courses, he called me up and he said, I set up an EC2 instance. I set up an X3 bucket. What is that stuff, Mike? And I watched the courses in horror. All of it was garbage. It was the name of a service and how to configure that service. And guess what? Nobody would ever get hired. And I couldn't believe it was that bad. So what I did is I interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people, 1,000 of them. How many people you think could do a cloud architect or solution architect job? 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So then we created our cloud architect career development program. And I see these same people that are making the bad certifications training are now charging thousands of dollars for training. So I want to give it away for free because I don't believe anybody should pay for certification training, because certification training in itself is not enough to get hired. What we do is teach you how to become the ultimate architect and build a great career. But I like doing it for free because I don't want anybody to pay for that, spend a year and waste of time on any of that training and have no skills when they're done. So I do it for the community because I feel compelled to, like I have no choice. Chris and Alonzo, you've been a lot of this. Why are you guys doing it too? Now, the career development program is not free, and that's how we build the ultimate cloud architect. But, Chris and Alonzo, you have any thoughts there? I know, Alonzo, you did the other training before you came to us.
I'll tell you this during my early, and I'll keep it concise, but I had my journey. I went through a lot, and I won't name names. I won't name people and the locations that they live in, but I went through the entire gambit. I tested. I got this subscription. I joined X, Y, and Z, and unfortunately, I still went through it. I got my certifications, and I still didn't understand anything because there's no real entry point for someone who has no tech experience. They're not engineers. They don't no, for anyone who doesn't know how to code, pseudo yum, hello world, and anything else in between. So, and I'll say in the marketing for my prior life earlier on, there's a concept in marketing saying we eat our own dog food. So that means that not only do we support what we're talking about, we've gone through the process. I was initially a student before I came here, and it took what I learned here when I found out about Mike's program on YouTube. He demystified everything that took me almost 9 months to a year to learn. I learned more in those 60 to 90 days than I did during my entire search. So it's about you understanding what the competency is instead of the certifications and things like that they put out there. So it's just very important to know the difference. And I know we'll speak about that later on as well. What about you, Chris?
I'm just simply put, again, if this is asking about why we're doing the AWS boot camp, simply put, the simplest, most entry level thing should be available for free.
Yep.
Like, people shouldn't have to pay money for that.
No.
That's how I feel. And it's not just how we feel. I mean, you need to get some practice exams. I mean, the certification is just literally just the entry. Go get practice exams. Go get them from Andrew Brown. The same. He's got the same philosophy. If it's not free, it's like $5. Like, it's go Andrew Brown and Exam Pro, I think, is what it is. And I can't think of the other exam places that we like, but yeah, that's why we're doing it, because the demand for competent cloud professionals in the market, the competent part is what's missing. So, Alonzo, you got a list of a few things there, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I think talking about how to impress the manager, I think that's something that if we're ready to go, I'll start walking down that path if you gentlemen don't mind.
I mean, if there's a producer, I guess I'm the producer. So you're whatever we want to talk about, we talk about.
Let's get it in, Chris and Mike. So impressing your manager. So impressing your manager, for me, it does not start when you walk in the door, shake your hands, meet eye to eye. It starts beforehand. You have to do your due diligence about who you're meeting with, why you're meeting with them, what they've done, how you can create what their path has been within the organization, and leverage that information to how you can provide the same value for them. Not only that, but also talking about what their goals have been for the organization and how you can help support him or her in that position. And those are certain things that they're going to say, wow, they're going to be really impressed about. Not only have you taken the time to learn about the organization, you took time to learn about them, their trajectory in the organization, their prior history, what they're specialized in, their department, if they've had TED Talks, if they've had some sort of white paper that you can read about and create discussion points, and always tie that back to your skill set and how you can add value to the company. Those type of things are what they will love to hear. They don't, when people talk about, can you tell me about yourself? They don't care about your hobbies, what you ate for lunch, what your foodie goals are, or anything else. They're trying to determine what your value is and how you can tie that in to moving the company forward. So you're able to really fortify your position, again, by doing your due diligence, is what we call reconnaissance or recon, walking in that door, also tying in your brand presence. I speak a lot about this in my prior soft skills class, and I think we're going to start chapter 3 of our branding, and also another portion of that interview process that the students I hoped enjoyed as well. So you focus on your brand, and you focus on how you look, how you are engaging with the hiring manager, your intonation, your choice of words, your ability to engage, be able to understand, read body language. It's all about your representation of who you are and how you look before you even open your mouth. So once we've gotten that engagement and that introduction out of the way, then we circle back around by asking key questions and understanding that once you answer or ask those questions, it's about understanding, like, this is how I want to guide the conversation. You control that conversation like reins on a horse, so that it moves to your ability, moves to your direction, and moves to your advantage. Now, in all honesty, there may be questions that they may ask that you don't know. It all goes back to being honest, because you don't want to be, quote unquote, given a cookie, and Mike will explain that about what that means. So, Chris, please elaborate, jump in, and share what your thoughts are about that.
I'm gonna let Mike talk since you just threw out the cookie.
Okay, so let's talk about what my team refers to as cookies. So in my first job in tech about 25 years ago, I had interviewed somebody that was really bad. I interviewed him. He mentioned something. The first question, he lied to me. And I said, okay, thank you very much for coming in. You can go. And my manager said, how was this interview with Johnny? And I said he was so bad on the first interview, I escorted him out. I couldn't have him lie to me anymore. And my manager proceeds to say, Mike, can't you do a courtesy interview so they have a good taste in their mouth and they feel good about us? You know, just talk about, if you know you can't hire them, just smooth with them. Ask them some softball questions like what they like as their hobbies. And I said, honestly, I can't lie to anybody. I can't lead anybody on, but I could do this. And what I said is, I said, I'm going to bring in a cookie jar. I don't eat cookies. I don't eat sugar. I don't eat flour. Never have. It's just not part of my life. And I said, and when somebody lied to me, I started feeding them cookies on the interview, because guess what? You can't hire someone that lies to you on an interview, and 99% of people do it. So that's what Alonzo was talking about with regards to cookies.
Yeah, you don't want to lie, and I think that your overall impression, based on what you know and how we talk about shutting down the interview, is what you learn when you're a student. When you're doing that, you're going to automatically impress your hiring manager or the person that you're interviewing, because you're going to showcase your competency. You're going to use a lot of your CXO relevancy, soft skills, business acumen, emotional intelligence, your ability to present and walk them through your capabilities, your story of who you are, how you come to this position, how you can add value to this organization, this department, over a 3, 4, 5-year period. Being able to impress them by saying, I don't have goals of being somewhere, or rather keep it to the vest that you want to be somewhere else. Never say that, because they want to know that you're going to have stick-to-itiveness, you're going to have loyalty to their department, to their goals, and be able to continue to talk about how you can fortify this over a long period of time. So adding these key points is very impressive for them, and they want to, they're going to start leaning in both emotionally, physically, and as a conversation piece, that they want to hear more about that and be willing to hire you. The chances of you being hired at an increased level.
I love this question that Angelo. We know Angelo. He's wonderful in every way.
Yeah.
Mike's reaction was during that. Do I have a poker face? I don't think I have a poker face. I'm pretty straightforward, honest, and ethical. What you see is what you get. But can I fake it, Chris or Alonzo? Do I have the ability to have a poker face? I don't know. You guys know me.
You have the ability.
You have the ability. Yeah.
You have the ability, whether it
So
goes
do I,
really well in
apparently.
his voice.
Do what?
I said it also works in his voice. He's able to manage and engage, because we've known him long enough. I can tell when Mike's angry or he's not he's aggravated, but anyone else, they wouldn't be able to see that. There might be some minor, how would I call that? Maybe a couple of quirks here and there that we might see. But outside of that, no one would know the difference between him wanting to put you out with a cookie or actually him sitting there and engaging with you further.
True. The funny thing is, I think that I don't have a poker face, but apparently, when I'm doing classes, when I'm leading some of our classes, apparently I do have a poker face, and people have made comments about it, which I thought was funny because I thought my wife would tell you I don't have a poker face. I don't.
Okay. Do I have a poker face? That's going to be interesting. I'm hearing different stories over my life about me having a poker face.
Depends.
It depends.
You we'll talk about that one later. We'll talk about our poker faces later. We'll talk about All right. So there was a question that I wanted to get to.
We definitely have to get to the digital divvy at some point too.
Yeah.
Because
I'm trying to get caught up before we go with those. Let me see. So we talked about this earlier, but we didn't talk about the specific thing. So it's a good question. Rana says, it has been observed some employers push interviewees to provide a number of salary expectations. Oh, definitely. They do.
Mm-hmm.
How to cater with such situation. Mike briefly mentioned it earlier, so I just want to make sure we targetedly mention it here. Mike, thank you. Do you just want to give your blank example, and then we can talk
I'm going to give you the examples that I pushed in both cases. Rana, in 90% of the jobs I've asked, somebody wanted to know my salary expectations ahead of time, and I said to them, let's be fair. I don't exactly know what the role is, and you don't know me yet.
Yep.
And it would be unfair for me to try and request a certain amount without even knowing if I'm the right fit for you, and I don't even know what the role is. So let's do the interview. If we like each other, we can work it out. Now, there was one where it didn't work, where one said, I need to know what your salary expectations are before we meet. And I said to them, I don't know the job and you don't know me. Give me a number or the interview is over. I said, between 250 and 750. I said, and that sounds like a really big range, and it is, because I don't know you and you don't know me, and I don't know what the job is yet. And since I can't give you a number, but you're pinning me down for a number, so that's the range. I did get the offer, and I did get the interview. And the hiring manager, when he spoke to me, he said, I really liked your response to us trying to pin you down to an answer. He said, you wouldn't give. And when we forced you, you gave such a wide range. And he says to me, that's what I want out of an architect, an excellent architect on my team. When the customer tries to pin him down with something that's crazy and irrelevant, like our HR recruiter did, you didn't let them, and you wouldn't let our customer. So let's now talk. He was incredibly responsive. And it turned out to be.
That interview hits the ground running before you even have a chance sometimes.
Because HR didn't know how, the HR recruiter, and I don't deal with HR recruiters, I deal with private recruiters whenever possible, but they didn't know how to deal with it. And at a low level job, they don't, it's kind of a fixed range. A nurse gets paid when a nurse gets paid, plus or minus a couple of dollars an hour. But for these jobs, there's a $200,000 to $300,000 salary difference, and you can't commit to it until you know what it is. If it's a job that's going to be 18 hours a day, I'm going to want more for it. If it's a job where I'm going to spend half of the day at the beach and playing with my cat and the rest of the time working, well, I might be willing to take a lower salary because it's a vacation job. And at different times of our lives, we want different things. Maybe it's a salary. Maybe they play in restricted stock units. Maybe it's stock options. Maybe it's vacation time. There's a lot of things you can push. And you can't do that until you know it ahead of time.
So you're saying, Mike, the negotiation starts way before you walk through the door.
The negotiation starts.
Don't steal my line, man. Don't steal my line.
The second you make your resume. So let's go back to Chris.
Yeah, don't steal my line. Don't. All right. So so just Mike covered that one pretty succinctly. So I wanted to make sure we addressed that because we addressed it in the scope of a broader topic earlier. Yeah. So let's see. Here's another good one. How to state this objectively or better way to a hiring manager. Point basically just saying, I don't know.
Yeah, saying I don't know is fine. And here's the thing. Nobody expects you to know everything. On every
Yeah.
interview, I tell them I don't know. And usually when I tell them I don't know, that's when they hire me, because they're so used to being lied to that it makes them sick that when you find an honest person, they're going to be thrilled there. Just say, I haven't had
Polish
the
it up.
opportunity to learn this yet, whatever that
Yep.
is. But, and show them that you are what they want. What does the hiring manager want? And I'm going to show you the psychology of this. Energy, enthusiasm, passion, honesty, integrity, a willingness to work hard, a willingness to go above and beyond, and being a great team player. That's what they want. I think you're competent. So, I'm also going to teach you something else real quick from neurolinguistic programming. Hey, Alonzo, don't think of a pink elephant. He just thought of a pink elephant.
You trained, in all honesty, Mike, you've trained me not to. So,
okay. But
the sad thing is, I thought about a pink monkey because I was purposely trying not to think of an elephant, but I still thought of a pink monkey.
I thought of a blue shirt.
But, there's typically that. So my team is pretty trained. But also, according to neurolinguistic programming, people can't remember anything in a sentence before but. I'm sorry I've not had the opportunity to learn that yet. But, so that's all forgotten. Now, but I'm energetic, I'm enthusiastic, and I absolutely love technology, and I'm passionate about it. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, and I can find the answers to things quickly that I don't know. But if you want to check my competency or my expertise, we can talk at length at X, Y, and Z, where those are your true strengths. Now, what did you do? Because you use neurolinguistic programming to basically tell them what you didn't know, they can't even remember that. And you just sold them on everything that you're good at.
All right. So got a couple more that I want to put out there related, so I'm going to put them up back to back. Yo Bruh says, should you only trust recruiters who work for the hiring company for an interview? No, bruh, you shouldn't. We'll go into it in a little bit more depth. Here's another one. And the reason I'm putting them both up is because they're tied together. What is a good way to handle an informational interview with a recruiter that does not represent a specific company?
Okay, so the majority of the way I suggest is you work with external recruiters. Internal recruiters are kind of too closely tied to HR. They're kind of like robots. They don't know what they need. They don't know what they know. They just cast a big net, and they've got a company behind them with a big brand, so they get lots of responses. You don't want to work with them. I will do anything to avoid working with them. They're the last people I want to know. Anybody that was a recruiter at one of these companies that says, I can help you, they can't help you because they don't even know themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why you can see people that are, I'm an expert on FANG interviews. They'll have a website that'll say, give me a tip and donate to my YouTube channel, because they just don't know.
That's why these internal recruiters are the ones that are being laid off right now.
Yes. They're all being
laid off. Because they know the companies know that they're not actually, unfortunately, no offense to the people that are in these roles. I'm sure they would probably be great at recruiting if they did third party, but because they're too close and too far away, too close to the problem and don't have enough knowledge to solve the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
It puts them in a bad situation as internal recruiters.
So you got to find an external recruiter, and a lot of that, and we can't give our secrets away here, is about how well you build your brand. We've got a chief marketing officer with 32 years marketing experience in our company. There's a reason for that. He built big brands like AIG. And if you can build the Fortune 100 brand, boy, you can do all kinds of amazing things for our students. So first, you got to have the right brand. And that the right brand is like the right bait. If you want to go fishing, you got to have the right bait to catch the right things.
So to tune into the question that they were asking, it was about how to deal with the informational interview. So if you're getting reached out to by a third-party recruiter, interview the recruiter.
Yes.
If they don't want you asking them questions, don't deal with them. Because if they're not willing to learn what you need, then you don't want to work with them. So, and if you're dealing with an informational interview, that's what it should be. So, a lot of the times, and I know a lot of our students deal with it when they get their branding right. They'll get blast emails as well as personalized emails, or blast LinkedIn messages and personalized LinkedIn messages. you can tell when it's a blast message, and they're just trying, and it's just a recruiter that's just trying to fill their cupboard and don't actually care about you. So if they actually willing to take the time to listen to you and learn about you and what your needs are, then then you're probably dealing with somebody that's worth working with, at least for a little bit, to see what they're able to do for you. So let's see. There was one that, here we go. So we got one from Digital Divi. Given LLM and advances in AI, I know what that one is. Do you see the merging of the engineer role with architects, i.e., architects with an AI buddy that does the hands-on work per the direction of the solution architect?
Never.
No.
The more AI we have, the more architects we need. So I want to make this clear, Digital Divi. You know, I showed you some basic examples of, and I was a principal architect with 2 years, so I want to put it into financial terms for you. A principal architect at Google earns $508,000 a year. That's over $250 per hour. Even though Microsoft pays a little less, it's almost $200 an hour. It's $190 an hour. Now I can find me a hands-on programmer in India for $15 an hour. And I give that great programmer, and for $15 in India, I get a rock star programmer, ChatGPT or other versions of AIs and low latency codes like AWS Code Whisperer, and they can do 10 times the job. So do you want to waste a $250 an hour employee on low-level tech stuff, or do you want to use a $15 employee? So there's that. Now let's talk about the second reason. The architect's focus is the business. The business. How do I make XYZ company more profitable? By increasing their revenue, decreasing their operating costs, improving their process efficiency, etc. If I'm focused on all these business executive things, I can't think about the technology. It's just a tool. So no, as more and more technology comes, the need for architects to just design the plan gets bigger, 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 and bigger. And that's why you've got companies like Microsoft that lay off 10,000 engineers, mostly engineers, and then invest $10 billion in the same day in AI. Because they know they don't need the engineers anymore. The AI can do it. They're going to have a superstar engineer, and they're going to have low-level, inexpensive people. So Digital Divi, why do you think AWS is a video game like Cloud Quest? They're trying to teach the nonsense, the low-level stuff that you can do with AI and make it so cheap that it's no different than a fast food worker. While we're focused on all these elite skills that teach you how to be the best. I love fast food workers. My family had a restaurant. I love it. I love it. I love it. But the point is they're trying to commoditize the business, and we're trying to show you how to be at the top. So more tech, more innovation means more architects and less engineers. And a further separation between the architects that can speak to that CEO that says, look, we've got a $42 billion annual run rate in revenue. And we'd like to increase that by 3%. What can you do? What kind of technology can you do that? And I promise you, you're not thinking about coding and you're not thinking about configuring when you're trying to deal with those problems. That's what architects do.
So I read this one a little bit differently. I read it as, will the architect have an AI buddy, aka a real person that knows AI? That's how I read this. I'm like, well, you like architects and engineers already work like this. The architects design, and then the engineers build what is designed. There's already that piece. You're not going to get rid of the person. Like, there's still going to be the engineer. There's still going to be the person that's doing it. So if by AI buddy you mean, hey, Alonzo, you're my AI buddy, you know how to implement this stuff, like you're the superstar engineer that's going to be using the AI to make this happen. Like, if that's what you mean, then that's how, like you're going to have your architects and you're going to have your engineers working together to design and then build. But if by AI you mean removing that human element as an engineer, no.
But what Chris is describing is an AI augmented engineer, meaning you can have one really solid engineer that can use AI and do the work of 10 engineers.
Right.
And also, if you're a business Does it matter where the person's coding if they're in Cape Town, Cameroon, Cambodia, Chicago, or California? No. Now, if you're the CEO of a business, and in order to have a house, just to break even with a house in San Francisco, you need to earn $416,000 a year, because the average house in San Francisco, and we're talking about a little mini shoebox with 2 bedrooms, is $1.49 million.
No, it's down now.
No, it was 1.9. Now it's down to 1.49. I just checked.
Okay, all right.
So
I was gonna say it was 1.3 2 days ago when I looked.
maybe
So
it's
all
went
over
down a
the
little
place.
more. San Francisco's having some serious
Yeah.
property value crashing problems, which we
Yeah.
won't get into. But
Right.
yeah, there is that. But if you have to pay somebody $400,000 plus a year in San Francisco to get a programmer, and you can hire a better programmer in India for $40,000 a year, and you can hire a better programmer in India for $50,000 a year than you can for $400,000 a year in America. You can. And you deal with something like that. Where are you going to hire? What are you going to spend for the company? You're going to invest in the people. So your engineering is going to be outsourced.
All right. Here's a dangerous question. But before I bring this question up, I want to remind everybody that that next Friday we have a Winning the Secrets to the Interview webinar that is free for you. Register for that. The link will be in the chat box in the description. But let's see. Natalie says, and I'm going to start this one off, guys. Natalie says, give us suggestions about how to get good enough cloud hands-on experience to get prepared to get a job. Another YouTube channel, because we're not going to do good enough.
Yeah.
No.
That's not what we do. Now, I'm not sure what role you want. So you may be interested in a DevOps role or a cloud engineer role, and they're talking about hands-on configuration and things like that. I'm not sure, wouldn't know where to begin with that. If we're talking about architect, then hands-on better mean designing hands-on designing it, like with a PowerPoint and our Visio application. That's about as hands-on as you're getting. But I hear people asking about hands-on, and I'm like, well, we're not talking about configuring, and they mean, well, I mean designing. I'm actually designing. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's hands-on. But yeah, if it good enough. Let's just answer the good enough part, guys.
I don't want a good enough surgeon. I don't want a good enough parachute.
You should attain to be just good enough, because you're going to be
That's average.
You're going to be sacrificing so much revenue for yourself.
Yeah. Don't rush the process.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as good enough. Good enough is the first to be laid off. Good enough is the one that goes on 50 interviews and posts to LinkedIn. Guess what? I was rejected 300 times and I interviewed 186 times and I'm finally hired. That's good enough. Great. Because you go in that first interview, you get hired and you get paid 3 times the salary with the person that went on 176 interviews. I don't believe in good enough. I'm an extremist. I'm not good enough at anything. If I'm not good enough, I'll stay up all night, read 1,000 pages a day for the next 9 months until I'm good enough. And I won't put my name out there until I'm good enough. So it's up to you. But we're focused on excellence here and really building elite careers.
All right. I keep going with these questions because they're good ones. I know we got other topics. We got a couple more topics to get to. But if we don't get to all of them, we can do another show. Angelo, always coming with the heavy hitters. How much of impressing is what you do versus who you are? Who you are meaning your integrity. Oh, so now I've got a follow-up question. How do you convey your integrity in the interview? Aha! You thought you came with a hard question.
Riddle of the Sphinx.
So, Angela, I'll give you my perspective. It all depends on the job you're actually interviewing for. At my level, or at an architect level, if you don't have integrity, your career is over. And here's the thing. You can see it in some sales reps. that have a career. I've got a friend, we'll call her H. It's her, in case her husband or she is watching this and she doesn't want her name on there. She's been in sales for 20 plus years. I trust her more than anybody to make sure that if she's going to sell me a product, it's the right product. It's going to optimize my business. It's going to be good for me. And if not, she's just going to walk away from it. I've been an architect for decades now, and I've told customers that the $20 million thing that the sales team wanted to do was wrong. And the customers went, oh, Mike, what do you think we need instead? And they're like, I buy it in a second. Why? Because I would never sell somebody something that's not good for them. So when you're on an interview, it's showing that you are the right person, that they can trust you, that they can believe you, that if you say you're working, you're working, and if you say you can't, and you give them a reason, it's not. So, it's a lot of what you do, but I'd say it's at least 50% important what your integrity are. Who are you? Actually, I'd say it's 75% who are you, and 25% because we had Alvin DaCosta come here one night. He's a VP over at NVIDIA. He's a good friend of mine. And he says, often I hire people with the right emotional intelligence and integrity over better skilled people all the time. I hire people that lack skills and train them if they're the right person, because it's easier to find the right person and train them than it is the wrong person that's, I don't trust. So to me, it's everything. Chris has hired a lot of people. Alonzo, you probably hired a bunch of people in your life too. It's got a different perspective.
I want to know, and I agree with that, because the size up happens, you get everything. Everything's all on paper. And this, I'm flipping the script here as someone who's done, it's not as much as Chris has done because he's more HR oriented than I ever was. But once I see someone come through the door, you're automatically assessing movements to see if they're honest, forthright, if they're going to give you what you're expecting, or they're going to try to throw you a curveball. So being able to exemplify who you are as a person with every word you do, every example you're able to display about how you're able to do the job is it's key. But being genuine as well is also the balancing act. So making sure that you're someone that's relatable, someone who's not just being a yes person just to feel like they're checking boxes to get the role, because we know, Chris knows, Mike knows, but focusing on, like you said, use your your historical integrity and how it applied to your examples over the course of time is what's going to build up that small platform of trust to be able to say, okay, let's take this interview further. It's chess over checkers. It's a conversation of avoiding pitfalls while being able to leverage your skill set, your value, and presenting it in a way that is attractive to them for you to get the role. What about you, Chris?
Sorry, I apparently have motorcycles racing outside my window. All right. So, yeah, from my experience in hiring, how much of impressing is what you do versus who you are. So, I'm not impressed by what people say they're able to do or what they've done. It's and I've talked with some impressive people. Now I know the former another former CEO of UPS International. My wife, his favorite cake is my wife's cheesecake. So he's impressive as a person, as an individual, not because he was the CEO of UPS. I know Mike. Mike is not impressive because of what Mike does. Yes, that is quite impressive. But Mike is impressive because of who he is. So you asked that question, and that's my answer. And we can tell who you are, even if we only have 15 minutes. Most good hiring managers are able to tell who you are. First point of contacts in the interview process might not be able to pick it up. but the hiring manager usually can. So, how much of impressing is what you do versus who you are? In my perspective, and in most of my colleagues' perspective, who you are matters more than what you do. So let's see here. Alonzo, do you have another thing on your list that you want to talk about before we get to some more questions?
Let's see. Let's talk about career agility skills like emotional intelligence and listening skills. Let's talk about that.
Okay, all right. I like that. I like that. I gotta find you guys. I lost my screen. Okay, there we go. Sorry.
So, emotional intelligence, being able to control your emotions as well as control the emotions of the person persons you're conversing with, and that ability to do so is very important with telling that story about who you are and how you're able to engage problems, go through a scenario of how those emotions ran high during a project, how you're able to mitigate that risk with tempering people's uh, emotions that ran high during a project, and be able to use that as a medium to say, this is how you're able to mitigate risk, stay focused on the task, get everyone to do the same thing, is one of those abilities that people love to see. As we already know that people want to see an energizer, but also they want to see someone who's also able to be an emotional problem solver. When things go awry, you're able to be that calm voice in the storm. But also pivoting to that, another aspect of that is listening skills. Being able to understand what the hiring manager is communicating with about what the role is, you being able to mirror that with another confirmation about, so what you're saying is that you want such and such. Do I have the expectations clarified, and I'm able to am I understanding these effectively? And by showing and listening to them and providing a real keen ear about what they're talking about is really what's helpful in moving forward in that conversation. What about you, Chris? I want to be able to engage that and provide those abilities.
Yeah, so I think if so, I want to take it a step. I want to take a step back to what we're talking about here, because you dove straight headfirst into emotional intelligence there,
Yeah.
and so let me get rid of this question here. But so you got to emotional intelligence because we're talking about the career agility skills.
Right.
So why are we worried about these career agility skills? Let's talk about that for just a second.
That's a great point.
Because, and then I want to take a second to provide a rundown, just a quick rundown of some highly critical career agility skills. So, a career agility skills, and someone asked about this in the chat box. And there's a reason why I didn't answer the question about what was that word, because I knew we were going to be talking about it. So, career agility skills. Why do you want to show that you've got these career agility skills? Because everybody wants them. They are the same skills that show that you can perform at a high level.
Yeah.
And at a competitive level. And if you are able to convey that you have these skills in the short time span that you have in the interview, then that's essentially as good as being able to shut down the interview. And we'll talk about what shut down the interview is in a second. But yeah, so the career agility skills will work in your favor because one, they're what everybody wants. Two, if you actually have these skills, then you're movable. You're agile, career agility. You're agile to the company. You're not useful in only one place. are in one situation, are in one environment. In difficult times like now, we're talking about interviewing in an uncertain job market. You want to show that you're agile. Now, this does not mean that you want to show that you can do everything all at the same time every day. That's not what this is. This is showing that you have the skills that can be transferred and are needed in multiple roles. That's not saying you're doing the roles at the same time. It's saying, okay, this is somebody that I can hire, and because we always have it in the back of our head. Hiring managers always have it in the back of our head. Worst case scenario, what's going to happen? I bring this person on board. I'm committed to this person. This is somebody that I need to that I want to be able to take care of. Okay, yeah, all right. This is somebody that we can move around if we need to. We can offer them an opportunity if things don't go like they're supposed to. We can offer them opportunities to make sure that they're taken care of. From a hiring manager and a good hiring manager standpoint, not all hiring managers think that way, but from a good hiring manager standpoint, that's something that they look for, and that's something that they're thinking about. So that's why it's beneficial to you to get these career agility skills.
Yes.
So what are some of these career agility skills? Alonzo started off with emotional intelligence. We've got some others in here that, so you've got emotional intelligence, you've got communication skills, like the ability to communicate effectively is critical in every single role, every industry, everywhere in the world. So if you can communicate effectively, that's game changing. You've got leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, another game changer. And I call these game changers, but apparently what I mean by game changer are ones that you can clearly convey in an interview. Communication, executive presence, likability, social intelligence. These are just some of the critical career agility skills. Mike, I know you have a lot to say about career agility skills.
Yeah.
And then we can dive into a few of them.
And the reason I love these skills, and I learned many of them from internal medicine actually in my old life, but spent decades learning them. Here's the thing: I was at one company, and it was a great technology company that focused on the tech, while Cisco was focusing on how the tech could make the business. As you can imagine, the company that had the really great tech lost every single business deal, because companies don't buy the best tech; they buy the tech that solves the business problem. So Cisco had business executives coming in and showing how the tech was going to make the business better. And my team and my company that I was working for brought in the best techies to show that they could do more. Didn't work. So what happened is, while I was at that company, they did 13 layoffs. And I had like 5 different jobs at the same company. And the reason why was, in one case, I was doing more architecture work. One day they moved me to another job where I was doing more sales. Next thing I know, I'm writing product requirements definitions, which is really product marketing and product management. I'm in doing that. And it's because I had these skills. So not only did these skills make you more likely to get hired, let's just talk about emotional intelligence. People ask me salary all the time. And they're like, I get paid this. And I'm like, train your emotional intelligence. And like, huh? If I told you, statistically speaking, individuals, the best predictor of your long-term career success and reaching your career goals is your level of emotional intelligence. Statistics have been proving that for about 20 years. If I also told you the average person with good emotional intelligence skills earns $29.6 thousand more than those with less than emotional intelligence skills, if you had to spend $5,000 on emotional intelligence training, and we include that in all our programs, but even if you did, if it makes you $30,000 more for 30 years, that's $900,000. Spend that $5,000 on your emotional intelligence. But every 1% increase in your emotional intelligence above that gives you an additional $1,400 a year. So for people that are emotionally intelligent in tech, they can and because that's average salary, tech could be double. You can easily add $50,000 to it more just by being emotionally intelligent. So they're more likely to hire you. And instead of laying you off when there's a neat reason to do a layoff, they're more likely to take those emotionally intelligent people and put them in new roles. And you're the last person to get laid off in the same job, even if you're not the best. And here's why. When a company lays off a percentage of the workforce, say 10%, lots of people are sad. They're angry. They're miserable. They lost their buddies. You got two kinds of people. This is the worst company I've ever worked at. These people, my manager is stupid. They got rid of a strong person. Fired. Don't need that person on my team. Even if they're the one that didn't get laid off. Now, what about the other person that's on the team that says, yes, this was a huge loss for us, but we're all lucky to have a job still. The economy's in shambles. Let's show this company what we can do. Let's build the performance. And maybe if we earn better, we can help our person get another job or come back here. So the emotionally intelligent person raises the output of the team, which means they're the last person to go. They're going to be the highest paid and the first person to get hired. And the first person to be moved around. So these career agility skills are critical. And a company knows that. And that's why these are the people they hire in an economic downturn, because they can put them anywhere. Teaching you how to do something is nothing. Finding the right person, ooh, that's tough.
Yep.
And most companies hire through recruiters, because what happens is HR doesn't know the job. The internal recruiters just get nothing. And then they all get to the hiring manager, and they're a jack of all trades with 5,000 years of experience and 10 Olympic gold medals, but none of them can do anything. So the hiring managers always call their own external recruiter and says, here, get me a person that can do this, this, and this. To get a good cloud architect hired, it's going to cost $40,000 for a recruit to pay a recruiter's fees. To deal with a principal architect, it could be upwards of $100,000 to hire the person that you're paying in recruiting fees. Once you got a person like that that's a true gem, you don't let them go. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah. So I want to ask, well, I'm going to guess, since Alonzo went there. Alonzo, is emotional intelligence one of your favorite career agility skills, or what would you say is your favorite career agility skill?
I would probably say it's half emotional intelligence, half communication.
Agreed.
So being able to engage regardless of the tempo, whether it's up, down, stressful, calm, communication is always going to be able to lead that discussion. So I say in our classes, uh, there's been many a times there people are yelling and yelling. This person is yelling more. This person decides to yell a few octaves over them to try to not only put their point across in a reactive way, but try to assert dominance. There's a lot of dynamic going on between the two. However, when it comes to me, I speak lower. So the higher they speak or the louder they speak, the lower my voice is, because you can't listen to me and try to understand what I'm talking about and be angry at the same time. So I speak in these calm, paused reaction or actions where there's a little bit more space in between my sentences so that they can understand I'm trying to what they don't understand, I'm disarming them. I'm focused on how to bring about peace and understanding and saying, say, for instance, this wasn't done right, or whatever. And I'll say, tell you what, I'm here to help you with your problems. How can I resolve the situation? Whatever has been done, I'm sure we can come to a solution. That's not right. I don't want. Okay, this is what I'm willing to do. I want to hear what you're saying. Please kind of lower your voice or calm down so that we can better understand why you're upset, how we can come to a resolution and provide value, and you can walk away with whatever it is that you're looking for, and we can find out how we can continue these discussions and build out this project or mitigate this risk as necessary. They may walk away angry, or they may be able to have that quelled, but 9 times out of 10 or 9.5 times out of 10, they come back and they'll say, you know what? You really tried to resolve my situation. I was angry because of this, that, and the other. Thank you for helping me. Whether that engagement happens at the time of the conversation or afterwards, they always respect the position that I did by creating that space for them to justify, or rather have that platform about why they're angry, me being able to validate that anger and also providing an opportunity for them to have their issues resolved in a meaningful way. So those are the reasons why I think it's very important to be able to handle your ability to converse, your ability to handle pleasant and discussions in austere or adverse situations, and being able to receive that in a calm voice, because you're able to calm that person by being calm yourself.
All right, I gotta add into that conversation. So, and there's a good piece that Angelo teed me up here as a follow up to that. Angelo says, "Why are service oriented roles and jobs so impactful in developing empathy in us? And how does having empathy positively influence our emotional intelligence?" So, I'm going to tell everybody else, since I'm the only one that's worked in the service industry, I'm going to take this one. So, uh, the service industry type of roles and the service type of roles and service type of jobs allow you an abundant amount of situations like what Alonzo just presented on a hourly basis. They allow you the opportunity to be called names. They allow you the opportunity to be told you're worthless, you're a horrible human being, I can't believe you're doing this to me, so on and so forth. Whether you're getting paid $17 an hour or $150,000 a year, doesn't matter what level your role is. If it's service, it allows you the opportunity to get handled that way. Now, just a little caveat, a little side note here. Alonzo, you failed the emotional intelligence test there.
Yeah,
I did.
Yes, you did. You, in your salvaging the situation scenario, you said calm down. That is a red. Do not tell me to calm down. Did you just tell me to calm down? I am calm. But obviously you're thinking off the top of your head and just coming up with a make believe scenario. But I'm using it as an opportunity to say, like, to present the difference between, like, hey, that was great emotional intelligence example, but an even better one was figuring out how to say calm down without telling them to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
That's allow me the opportunity to hear what you're saying. Can you repeat that? Could you say that again? I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, while including what you were doing, the slowing down, the pacing, the breathing, allowing that space and everything. So I wanted to pick on you a little bit about.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Always
exactly.
love
That comes from years and years of experience of getting yelled at. Like,
you can see the amount of fun. Now, Chris shows you one side of the service sector, but the other side of the service sector is where I come from, which is healthcare. It's still professional services. Lawyers are service, doctors are service, nurses are service.
Yep. I forgot. I keep forgetting you're in healthcare. My God, how do I forget that?
The reality is, in healthcare, you have to tell a patient's family that their loved one just died, and walking in the room, yo, your relative died. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
Also, in healthcare, you got somebody that's strung out on drugs, or they've got schizophrenia and they think little purple people eaters are trying to kill the world. And you've got to find a way to diffuse these situations. Someone's life depends on it. So in a service role, you have to be, at least medical people, they get sent to a lot of emotional intelligence and empathy training. Elite business people, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to find a CEO or a CIO or a CFO or a CTO that didn't get through $30,000 to $50,000 of emotional intelligence training and empathy training by their employer, or they paid for it themselves. I know I had to, and I came from medicine. So, and the companies will pay for it because it matters. So there's no way you can do these jobs without a good degree of empathy if you're truly in the service sector. Chris showed you one side of it, and he's showing the side where people abuse you. In healthcare, we're abused too. Patients come in and scream at us. Nurses get screamed at by the doctors, even though the nurses are saving the doctor every day by catching their mistakes and doing things. But in service, you're gonna have to diffuse situations. I've been in an ambulance when I was a paramedic, which is how I paid through school. Somebody told me it was going to kill me, and I was like, well, how can I help you? What's truly getting to you? Because I want to make sure we get you completely satisfied. I wasn't worried about him killing me. I was a martial artist and an expert, but I wanted a nice, smooth ride to the hospital. In fact, if you really ever want to know some good emotional intelligence training, get a job as a mental health tech, which I did when I was in college. And they're the people that babysit the people that try and do harm to themselves or others, and be in the same room and talk these people down. And I promise you'll get really empathetic real fast. The alternatives are you're gonna be dealing with a psychotic killer.
Yeah. So I think I would agree with Alonzo there. My favorite of the career agility skills is the emotional intelligence and the communication, and they're the ones that I'm constantly always trying to improve as well. So, little tidbit of information on the flip side of what Alonzo was pointing out about the pausing and the slowing down of the way that you talk and the volume that you talk at. Talk a little bit about perception here. Fast-paced, high-pitched, higher volume talking is perceived as people that lack confidence. Any one of those three, but if you got all three, woo, doesn't mean that you don't have confidence, but the perception is that there's a lack of confidence. You're not confident, or you feel like you have to push. So you speak higher, faster to get your stuff out there. So just a little flip side of that. Whereas like Alonzo was talking about, the slowing down, the talking at a lower volume, allowing space in between the phrasing commands a presence.
Yeah.
So let's close out with some questions that we still have to get to here, unless anybody's got something they want to talk about before we get to some questions.
No, I think there were some terrific questions I want to make.
Yeah, because I know we're still working on that New Year's resolution from 4 months ago or 3 months ago, where we said we're going to try and do our shows in the time frame that we say we're going to do our shows. So let's get to some questions here. All right. So, and we may not be able to get to all of our questions, but we're going to get to the ones that we can. We can be very short with some of these. Yeah, what's a good salary range for no experience as a baseline after doing the architect program?
130 to 200. I'd say average of what we're seeing with our graduates is around 160, 170, but at least the ones that I've spoken to. But I'd say 130 to 200 is a reasonable thing after doing our architect program. And the reason why is we've got such a heavy emphasis on the leadership skills, the executive presence, the communication skills, the emotional intelligence, all those skills that not only make you better, plus, we spend a tremendous amount of time, over 500 hours, really honing you and helping you teach how to build your perfect brand. So all the things that raise your salary. So that's about what we're saying. And Kevin, you'll be hired in our program. We're not like other people where you take the class and then you're done and then you hope to get hired. You get hired while you're in our program.
All right. I've had a lot of interviews go into the direction of my opinion on things, and those were the ones that got the job. Is it always a good idea to answer opinion questions honestly? Well, what type of opinions are they asking you for? What are they asking for opinions on? Yeah. That I'm not comfortable answering this question until I know that.
Right.
But if it's a professional question about something that's related to the job and the work at the company, then I don't see why you wouldn't answer honestly.
Yes.
You want to start your career off on a lie?
Now, if they're asking you about your political ideologies, that might be a kind of thing where you honestly don't discuss money, politics, or religion with anybody. But if they're asking you how you feel about a religion, that's the place to find a different way to dodge the question. For example,
that's a place where you just figure out how to get out of the interview and finish the interview and don't go back. Because if they ask you about that type of stuff in the interview, they just violated I don't know how many regulations. Yeah. So the fact, anyway, So if it's career, if it's focused on the job and the company, then and what they're doing, I don't know why you wouldn't answer, honestly.
No.
When do you know you're ready to start applying for architect jobs?
Well, drummer, first thing, you shouldn't be applying for architect jobs. The world should be coming to you. If you have the right brand and you have the right skills and you've got the right resume, you're not going to apply. I haven't really applied for jobs in my life. I think at one point my wife sent an application to Cisco, and I think at one point during my retirement I was bored and she sent out a few resumes. I don't even know what she even sent out. I have no idea, honestly, to figure it out. But she did tell me she did. I'm like, oh, great. What did you even apply me for? My wife's a genius, so when she does things, keep that in the back of your mind. But when you can design a solution and you know how to design it, you know how to present it, and you know how to sell it back to the person, you're there. When you know how to build a business case, when you know how to respond to an RFI, RFP, RFQ, when you need to know how, and when your mind, and when you know how to sell something that's $50 million by building the business case and showing the business value, when you know how to write a document that people are so wowed about that you could easily get it published in Time Magazine or Forbes Magazine, because architects are constantly doing that. When you know how to work a booth and you know how to entertain clients, you're there. And I say this because I'm not joking. People confuse architecture and engineering. I had to take golf lessons to be an architect. I had to take special lessons to determine which piece of silverware to use and when. I had to take lessons on which kind of scotch would be good to which kind of people and how to order wines for people. It's architect work. Entertaining clients is 20% of the job. So when you know how to do the job, that's when you should be getting hired. But you shouldn't be applying. You should have the right resume, and the world should be coming to you like our students.
All right. So if you become an architect and create a solution and design the best cloud, what else is it to do for an architect? Design another cloud.
Design another architecture.
Design another architecture.
Yeah,
You
so
will not
it's
maintain
adventure.
the architecture. That is a sysadmin.
Yeah, Fernando, we don't touch the tech. You're not going to be allowed to if you work. We design it, present it, and sell it. Engineers go build it, and when it comes to maintenance, they hand it off to the sysops people. And when it breaks, they hand it off to the technical support team. We can't do it. So let's make it clear. If you work for a vendor like Azure, you're going to design something for customer A, and then you're going to go to customer B, and then you're going to go to customer C. Now, if you work for, let's say, a big bank, like a lot of our students graduated, work for JP Morgan Chase, do you think they only have one business initiative at a time? So first they have a storage migration project, and when done with that, they've got a unified communications project to architect. When they're done with that, they've got a new trading system to be architected. And when we're done with that, they're constantly doing our new architectures. Business is not stagnant. A company doesn't run its business today the way it does this year and next year. Things change, and the architectures have to change every single time as the business changes. And if you get a couple of slow weeks, it's time to go to the beach or it's time to go training.
All right. Steve says, it seems necessary that an architect work in person in travels.
Yeah, for the most part, Steve, that's why architect jobs don't get outsourced like engineering jobs. It doesn't matter where you're at as an engineer, but it completely manages. So there's two ways to do this, Steve. Option one is if you wanted to live in Palm Beach like I lived in, and you're traveling all the time because there's not enough local business. Now, at one point, I lived in Princeton, New Jersey, and worked in New York City, and I only traveled like 30% of the time because there were so many businesses that were big enough in New York City to pay for my services. But yes, architect work is very specialty work. It's near impossible to be outsourced, and it is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful career. So, Steve, you're totally right. For the mark. Now, you can get remote architect jobs, and I've had people get them, and I was asked to support a client as an architect, say in Japan, but it's much hard. Most architect jobs are local, meaning you're home and you go to your local airport and you fly to your customer site. Great question, Steve.
All right. If there's a solution designed round of interviews, which starts with one scenario and a set of requirements, what would be the approach for the architect?
Same as it was.
To decide. Yeah, I can't even say that word.
to dissect and present a solution. It's going to be just like any other architecture. It's the same thing we do. If the people give you the questions, they present something, and they're never going to give you what you need to know, you're going to have to ask for it. And you're going to have to listen to every key word. And then they're going to say something, you're going to have to ask clarifying questions, the same way a doctor does. And that's why architects need such crystal clear communication skills. Now, there are times where they give you a pre-made thing and ask you to present it back to the customer. Guess what? Every assumption you're going to have to make, because it's going to be incomplete information, you're going to have to document and tell them, well, with the information we had, which lacked this, and this, we've made these assumptions to give you this document. But it's going to be like anything else. Typically speaking, all architect jobs are going to force you to have a presentation interview. We teach that to the people in our Tech Interview Mastery program and our Lead Architect program, how to deal with it. And there's part of that. And you're going to have to use your executive presence. You're going to have to read the body language of the individuals in the room. You're going to have to know how to look in the different quadrants of the room to pay attention to the certain people, paying, say, 50% of the presentation to the key decision maker and for the 50% of the time to the remaining people in the room. But that's how architecture is. Somebody gives you a situation, you analyze that situation, you figure out what technology, and it's not just technology, it's people, processes, and technology to solve it, just like any other MBA would or a management consultant would. That's the approach. Take it, figure out what it is, figure out what the end goal is, then figure the technologies that'll work, and then pick out the vendor specific. For example, need object storage. Is it Google? It's cloud storage. Is it Azure? It's Blob. Is it Microsoft? Is it AWS? Is it S3? Same stuff. So first, get the information, then determine the optimal end state, then determine the people, processes, and technologies necessary to get to the end state, then substitute the vendor's silly marketing names for the actual technology, if you want to use those, and then present it to your audience.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I've had a blast. I definitely think we're going to be probably doing another one of these. I think we still have some content to cover, but I really enjoyed all the questions that people brought in. That made this for a great session. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm going to ask Mike and Alonzo to share some words here to close out in just a minute. But before we do that, I do want to remind everybody that we do have our Tech Interview Mastery program. We currently have about 15 slots left in this. It will start in May. You can enroll now and get access to all of the on-demand content. But our sessions for the 25 people that enroll will begin in May. Make sure to take advantage of our current 40% off discount. The discount code is interview40, and we have confirmed that it is working. So for those of you that might have been having difficulty with it earlier, it is working. So that is available while the slots are still there. It won't be around forever, but take advantage of that. It will be it'll be a 40% off discount. And this Tech Interview Mastery program comes with amazing on-demand content for both the resume and the interview. It's developed by us at Go Cloud Careers in collaboration with IT recruiters that are in the field, actually third-party recruiters from the technology field that are placing people every day. And it includes 5 curated small group classes for those 25 people. It includes monthly group practice interview sessions, and it includes 3 private one-on-one consultations with our team of experts. So take advantage of that while it's available.
No.
And also, if you're looking for some reading material for tonight, you can get our free interview guide. You can get that, and it will be in your inbox within a few minutes of filling out that form. Simple form, just provide your email address and we'll send it to you. So take advantage of those too. And yeah, Mike, Alonzo, any last words about interviewing?
Yeah, so I want you to take the interview seriously if you get nothing out of tonight. It doesn't matter how good your skills are. if you can't win the interview and get hired. I'm going to also tell you a secret. A person with less skills and better interview skills will get hired better than the more qualified person. And they'll earn more money too. Because if you can't show your skill, the hiring manager doesn't know your skill. And, that's one of the things with the communication skills. I ask somebody, how does this tech work? What is the tech? They explain it to me. How does it work? Why the company should use it in clear terms that I understand. Hired. And I get somebody else that tells me how to configure the tech when I ask them what it is. And I'm like, I ask you what it is. I need you to design it. So, it's a totally different skill to configure versus design and understand. And I want you to know how to answer these questions. Why? I showed you earlier, I showed you these jobs that had a $200,000 to $300,000 pay difference between the top and the bottom person. It's not your experience. It's how much they desire you that determines your salary. It's the supply and demand curve. Why is a diamond worth more than coal? Worth more than coal. It all comes from coal. The diamond squished coal because it's been crushed under the ground thousands of years. And the charcoal that you grill a barbecue to make some barbecued chicken or shrimp is the same stuff. One you can buy 40 pounds for like $20 or $30. One is like this tiny and it's like $10,000. It's the scarcity of the resource. So I want to teach you how to be the scarcity of the resource. How do we take this coal, cut it, and polish it up until it's a diamond? That's what I want for all of you. All of you can get the world's greatest job. But, every gang has a secret handshake, whether that be doctors, whether that be people at the country club, or whether that be CEOs. We're trying to teach you that secret handshake to get into the best jobs so you can have the best careers possible.
Oh, Jeff, couldn't have said it better, Mike. Understanding that who you are is showcasing your competency. Never let a certification that you've done prior be your ambassador to a hiring manager. Being able to showcase your competency through emotional intelligence, telling your story from an intelligent, business-related, business transformative strategy is how you're going to win the day. So ensuring that you start by practicing. Don't go in there cold. Don't go in there without understanding how your strategy is going to be. Don't go in there not understanding what the company is or who you're going to be speaking with. Come prepared. You don't go outside in the cold without a jacket or a hood or anything else. You always prepare for the elements depending on where you are. And the same thing is for your interview. So always come prepared. Think about your strategy. Provide what's necessary to win that interview and get hired.
And actually, before we go to Chris, Alonzo mentioned something really critical. On an interview, don't tell somebody you got a certification. They don't care. In fact, here's what we hiring managers look for. When we ask a technical question and someone says, sure, I know security. I have CISSP. Interview's done. Because instead of showing me you know security by answering the question, you diverted to a certification, which basically told me you don't know. And not only did you tell me you don't know, you told me you didn't even know what I was asking, which is even worse. And then you tried to point me to a certification, which is basically dodging the question and showing me you lack ethics. So don't ever tell somebody when they ask you a tech question, I got a certification, because I promise you, they'll escort you out the room. And we want you to get hired and at the highest salary possible. Because the average cloud architect earns $800 a day. A good one earns double that, which means $16,000 a month. So don't waste an interview. If you get hired 2 months sooner, it's $32,000. If you can get an extra $50,000 to $100,000 because you did a good interview, over 30 years, $100,000 is $3 million. So take this seriously. I want the best for all of you.
Yeah, and I'll just close it out. Mike just used an architect. That's just one example. We're talking about interviews here. We're not talking about the architect role. So he just uses that as an example because that's what we're working with every day in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. But what we're talking about here with the interview training is interview preparation, literally for even lower paying cloud computing or tech careers. We're talking about something that could even be just 30 or 40, 50, $60,000 difference between the low end and the high end. But we're talking about jobs that are usually like sysadmins, their average pay is probably like 60, 65, 70,000, but you have some that are earning much higher than that. And that is what the difference is how you do in that interview. So, while we might be using architects and director roles and senior director roles as examples, that we use those because there's a lot of those out there that are available that so many of you can do. And there is $200,000, $250,000, $300,000 difference between the low end and the high end. But even in the more the more common roles, I guess is the best way to put it, the sysadmins, the DevOps, the engineers, there's still a disparity of sometimes close to six figures.
Yes.
And if you can if you just spend a couple of thousand or get maybe 2 or 3 coaching sessions with someone, which is still probably going to be a couple of $1,000s. That's $2,000 or $3,000 that you might invest in interview and resume training and preparation that will pay off in 1 year, just a couple of tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
At the very least. So you multiply that over 5 years, that's several six figures. So that's why we really, really, really want to drive it home that this is key. This is going to set the baseline for everything after that hire. Everything grows upon this. So if you start at 150,000, or you start at 200,000, or sysadmin, you start at 60,000, or you start at 85,000. Well, 25,000 for a lot of people is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring that home that this is what's critical. So hopefully you rewatch this show. Join us for our webinar next weekend, next Friday. Get the interview guide. Join the program. Do something. Improve your chances. Improve your life. Change your life. I enjoyed it. Can't wait to do another one.
Me too. I love doing these things.
Hope everybody has a good night. Thank y'all.